Hi. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but I really like it when the stuff that I make is like perfect and I get to spend a really long time making it. But the problem with only trying to make things that are really perfect that you spend a super long time trying to make is that it's really easy not to make any of them and just to think about them forever. So I decided that I wanted to try to put myself in a situation where I'm just recording and I can talk about game concepts instead of trying to just like very slowly, meticulously, like work out every possible question somebody could have. I figure it would be more useful to more people if I could just get some of my thoughts out there, like any at all, and then maybe answer questions afterwards. So this is going to be the my first attempt at this. I'm going to try to talk about a concept for about 10 minutes, and then I'm just going to stop. I'm going to cut myself off. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And the concept that I picked for today for our first attempt on this is stage control. So I'm probably going to default to talking about like melee characters and melee situations. Because even though I play PM more these days, melee is a good bit simpler. So it'll be easier to take the concepts and try to apply them to the more complex situations afterwards. Um, so stage control. When I think of stage control, the first thing that I usually think of is like PPMD playing Marth in like 2015 because that guy had a really good idea of what to do with stage control. Um, it's a lot safer not to try to control the stage very much. And by safer, I mean risky in a sense of like, if you go to center stage and something goes poorly, then you can get hit for it. Like if you make the wrong read, you can just get punished by your opponent, even if your opponent's in the corner and you're the one who has stage positioning. So it can feel risky to people who aren't very familiar with it. It feels safer to just you stay in your corner and they'll stay in their corner, and you just don't have to engage all that often. And when you're in the corner, you're usually further away from your opponent because they're either in the corner or in center stage. Whereas when you are in center stage, there is only so far away from you that your opponent can be. So it means you're just like, you're going to engage more often, which means you have more chance of failure. So it can be scarier to occupy center stage. Because of this, a lot of people won't naturally occupy center stage. They just kind of stay in their corner. But the advantage of being in center stage is that you have more room to play with. Um, if your opponent is trying to whiff punish you, then they naturally like they're going to give up some of their space. They have to retreat basically to account for the range of your hitbox. So if you move into center, then your opponent has less space to work with to whiff punish you, even though you do put yourself in closer range to their attacks. So against an opponent who tries to whiff punish you a lot, going into center stage is not necessarily a bad idea because if you don't whiff a move, they don't have anything to whiff punish. You're just moving forward. Um, Another thing about center stage is that it's good for dealing with people who are hanging out on the platforms a lot. If you're in center stage, basically they can't get to center stage. So if you're hanging out in your corner and they're trying to get over to where you are, they have to cross through center stage, but they can't get to you if you're already there because you're controlling the space. You can put out a hitbox, you can stop them in the middle of their movement, that kind of thing. It also affords you technically, while they're not quite as safe with punishes, because you have to like account for the fact that your opponent is again a little bit closer to you. You do have more effective with punishes because you have more freedom to give up the space that you've now acquired from center stage. So to bring it back to like PPMD's Marth, when he's in center stage, he has really good control over the rest of the stage because if his opponent's on a platform, then the arc of Marth's Fair covering in front of him and like slightly above his head at the start of the swing are going to be really effective in like preventing your opponents from coming off of the platform by dashing off of it. And then you can also afford to play like timing mix-ups if your opponent attempts to shield drop. If your opponent's also like trying to shield drop, it's a little scarier because they have more time that they can shield drop, whereas if they're trying to run off the platform, usually they're going to do it off of a dash dance, which means they have to wait for the time to elapse between when they're in the center or on the back of the platform to get to the front of the platform. But if they're trying to shield drop, then they can just hold shield for a while, and especially if you're playing melee, you can light shield, so you can hold light shield like pretty much indefinitely and then decide when to shield drop. But if you have center stage, then when you do your short hop in center stage against an opponent who is shielding on the platform, you're threatening them with the threat of doing a forward air. So if it hits their shield, it's going to push them back. They're going to lose a little bit of positioning. You're going to be maintaining your positioning, and they're going to take some shield damage. So even if they are light shielding, they might not seem to take as much shield damage, but they do get pushed back further. So you have positioning again. But your short hop exists as a threat on its own because of the threat of forward air. So you can afford to short hop, and while you're short hopping, you can be looking at what they're doing on the platform while they're in shield, and you can watch their shield start to fade, and you can get extra shield damage in, and you can even get a shield poke that way sometimes. But basically, you do the short hop, and then you're reacting as you are in the air to see if your opponent is actually dropping through the platform. And then when you're in center stage, you can also afford to off of this short hop, if you see they're not shield dropping or they didn't shield drop the last time, that kind of thing, you can just short hop, and then you can waveland back out of it, and then you give up a little bit of your positioning, but also you've made them spend a lot of time in shield, so their shield is taking damage, and also there's a little bit of mental damage there also, from you're just jumping at your opponent, and then you don't do anything, and they're holding shield, so they're scared the entire time. They're probably waiting for you to do an attack. So that's pretty good. Excuse me. Other things about center stage. In that example I was just talking about, if you try to short hop and then waveland back to watch as their shield fades, then it's more difficult to do that from the corner, because if you imagine now that your opponent is the one who's closer to center, but they're still on the platform and you're below the platform. So if you're on the left side of battlefield and you're Marth, and they're on the right side of the left platform, so you're doing the same situation, they're facing away from you, so when you hit them, it'll push their shield towards center stage. So you do your short hop, and you can still do your forward air, and you still have all your timing mix-ups like I was just talking about, but if you were to waveland back, you would completely lose all of your positioning, and you would go to ledge. But in the first example, if you're doing it from center stage, then you can waveland back and you're in the corner and below a platform instead of being on ledge, which is a lot worse with Marth. His very very meager glint, not very effective off of the ledge directly. So those are good reasons to be in center stage. Any other reasons I can think of to be in center stage? Stage control. It makes pretty much everything that you do is more effective if you can manage to do it from center stage. Your pokes are going to threaten more space. They're going to be closer to your opponent. Your whiff punishes are going to be they're going to be more immediate. You can also the thing is, if you hit your opponent in center stage, you can probably still push them, carry them into the corner and push them off stage, even from center stage. I see a lot of people who will start camping the corner when they really need a good opening, a clean opening, to get a kill, if they're trying to make a comeback, they're down 2-1, that kind of thing. But if you're Sheik against Fox and you get a grab in center stage and you have your tech chases that you kind of need to have for that matchup to be playable, then you can still carry them over to the corner, because either they're teching in place and then you're regrabbing them, or they're teching away and then they're closer to the corner and you can throw them off stage anyway, but they're with they have more percent now than they would have before if you had just grabbed them in the corner. So the way that I think of center stage when I can get myself to, actually be brave and play in it, is that it's kind of neutral game plus. If you can play a situation from center stage, then you would rather play it there, assuming that there's honesty between you and your opponent on what the levels are. You're respecting all of their options and they're respecting all of your options. Maybe next time I can talk a little bit more about what it means to be on the same level, like playing the same game, respecting each other's options, that sort of thing. Or if anyone can think of any other things that I could talk about, let me know. Hopefully, this can help somebody who listens to it. I know I rambled a little bit, but there are some good concepts in there. So thanks for listening, everyone.